from Los Angeles, your host, Jim Rome.
Welcome back. My guest today has racked up 11 Nextel Cup wins, but none more dramatic than his win Sunday at Daytona. He is the driver of the number 29 Chevrolet that held off Mark Martin by 200ths of a second. Kevin Harvick is my guest. Kevin, it is great to have you on the program. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just on the whirlwind tour here.
Yeah, I would imagine. You are a Daytona 500 champion. I've got to say that's got a pretty nice ring to it. How does it feel?
It feels really good. Anytime you can put your name in the history books at Daytona, let alone the Daytona 500, you look on that trophy and you see all the people that have won a Daytona 500 in the past, and it's quite an honor.
Hey, Kevin, what a wild finish. I mean, never mind Daytona. Have you ever been a part of a finish to a race quite that insane?
I tell you, we got behind there with about 30 laps to go and had to fix the front of our car, and we were working our way back up through the pack, and I told Richard afterwards, I said, this is the wildest thing I've ever been a part of in my racing career. It was just a lot of bump draft and a lot of beating and banging and just trying to get back to the front. So it was a pretty wild finish to go along with everything in between.
You know, we'll talk about that in a minute, but go back to Richard. Richard being Richard Childress. Earlier in the week when you had kind of a rocky practice, you went to him and said, you know what, I'm really not sure. It feels like a 10th or maybe a 15th place car. What was his response when you said that?
I was having a bad day, and I went to Richard and after practice, and he came to the garage and he was telling me, he says, you know, your car looks good. I said, Richard, I'll be honest with you, I think we're about a 10th to 15th place car right now. And he says, without even missing a beat, he says, Kevin, you can win the Daytona 500. I promise you. I've been watching practice. So it was pretty cool to hear that confidence in his voice.
Yeah, I was going to say, were you thinking, or were you thinking, you know what, maybe he knows something I don't know and maybe he's right?
He knows a lot of things I don't know, and obviously in the end he was right. So he didn't even miss a beat when he said that, when that came out of his mouth.
Boy, Kevin, I don't know what it's been like for you, but when I spoke to you earlier today on my radio program, the second you went away, we spent the better part of 2 hours talking about the way the race finished, and I've never seen anything like it. It's almost like the racing community or the fans who called and emailed me are split right down the middle as to whether or not there should have been a caution after that crash. Where do you come out on that?
Well, I think you can go either way. I mean, either way, you're going to have the same split right down the middle, and that's what makes our sport great. Is you have the people who are for you and against you, and then you have the call at the end, which I don't know that we've ever actually wrecked coming off of turn 4 on a green-white checkered coming to the finish. I know we've always wrecked on the back straightaway, or going into turn 1 or whatever the case may be. So either way, I mean, NASCAR's in a tough spot, and coming off turn 4 when the first car spins, we're just ahead of Mark anyway, so I think either way it's a tough call.
All right, so you're convinced of that. You coming off that turn, you feel like you had the lead, and that even if they did freeze the entire field, you would not have lost the race to Martin.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think when Kyle Busch spun the first time, they had some great footage of it. We were still actually ahead at that point. So in between is the turn 4 and the start-finish line is where we lost it there just for a split second.
Hey, Kevin, talk about the race and what it means to you personally. I mean, there were some challenges you had to come over the day of the race, but you go back a few years, you really have come a long, long way. Talk about the journey you've taken, and because of that, how much more the win might mean to you.
Well, I think over the last couple of years, we've really worked on just trying to, get along with everybody and really work on, still being the same person, but picking and choosing your battles and not trying to fight City Hall every week. So it's something that Richard and I have really become on the same page. Our teams have become better. With my teammates I get along really good with, and right now everybody's pulling in the same direction. And I don't know how we did it before with everybody battling against each other and me doing stupid stuff on the track and off the track and things just kind of in commotion all the time. And it's a lot easier with things a little bit calmer, and you still get to voice your opinion and still have an opinion about things, just doing it in the right way.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Kevin, I know you still have opinions.
Oh, yeah.
You might pick your spots a little more carefully right now, but I know you still have opinions. Take me back. Childress was saying the other day that had you not reacted the way you did after the passing of Dale Earnhardt, that there might not be such a thing right now as RCR, that race fans even themselves probably don't know the kind of pressure that you were under, having to get in that car 5 days after he died. Take me back. Exactly what was that like?
It was, I don't even know that I realized what it was like at the time. It was actually, 3 days after the Daytona 500, we sat down and had a conversation and decided that we were going to go to Rockingham and race, and that I was going to drive the car. And at the time, you don't really have anything to go off of. I mean, we didn't have a winter to prepare. We didn't have a day to prepare. I mean, we just went straight to Rockingham and started practicing the car. And I don't think I really understood the magnitude of the situation until the next year, and really knew how big everything had become. And until I got better at managing my time and understanding how to react to things under the microscope that you were under, I just didn't really understand it all in 2001 when it all first happened.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't hit you until a year or maybe even a year and a half later, maybe you were better off not knowing in the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, I mean, knowing the magnitude of the situation, having to live up to all that hype, if Dale would have retired, or if things would have been different, or whatever the case would have been, it would have been a pretty stressful situation that I got to feel the second year once we weren't racing week in and week out.
Because you had success last year, because you're off to such a great start this year, I understand that on the circuit a lot of it is about luck. It's about having good fortune and staying away from bad fortune. How much of it, though, is about having a good plan, and do you just have a better plan now?
Well, I think we've become better as a race team. We've become better as an organization, and just really doing all the small things right. And once we got all 3 cars running well, it really took a lot of pressure off the 29 car, and having teammates like Jeff Burton and Clint Boyer to lean on, and for everybody else to ask questions to, really helps us have more time to concentrate on what we need to concentrate on. So it's been a lot of fun to see Richard turn the company around and really bring the level of RCR back up to where we all expected, and race for wins week in and week out, and hopefully we can keep racing for championships.
Hey, Kevin, one last thought on Mark Martin. You knew that when you came out and you were the winner that, obviously he was going to have some sentimental fans and some people who were pulling for him. Had it gone the other way, had he had the lead, and had he gotten that win by virtue of the caution, would that have been tainted in any way? Would he want to win that way, do you think? Would you want to win that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, as racers and as teams, you take them any way you can get them. That's just the way that the racing world goes, I guess. But Mark Martin is one of the most fierce competitors in the garage, and getting to race back to the start-finish line, there's really no question about who got back there first, and we raced all the way to that point. So, I think in the end, racers want to race.
It's yours. They can't take it from you. You're the champ. Kevin, thanks so much. Good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the forum, A-Rod digs himself an even bigger